This time last year we did a potato experiment, and that experiment was to see whether potatoes grown in containers did better than potatoes grown in soil. Now we've got more on that coming up right after this. So that experiment started this time last year, and I'll put a link to that up in the cards up above us. But the results were really surprising, because a lot of people thought that the potatoes that were grown in the ground would do much better, but they didn't. The potatoes grown in the containers did nearly double the yield over the row than the potatoes grown in the ground. Now, there was a little bit of controversy about this, because we had people saying, oh well, you've probably put more feed in with the potatoes, the buckets, even though we showed it the whole process on camera. Also, we had, oh well, there's compost in that sort of potato thing and it's not in the ground and this, that and the other. So this year, we're going to run that experiment again. However, I'm going to talk about some other things. Now, we are going to use this little cup here, and we're going to take the feed up to the rim here for each potato. So that's 3 ounces in there, just under 3 ounces of feed, which will go for per potato. So when we're putting it in the ground, that'll go in for each potato, and when we're doing it in buckets, because we're putting 2 potatoes in a bucket, we're going to put 2 of those in, okay? So each potato in effect will have identical feed. The feed is this, and this is a mix of my own. It's got a granular potato fertilizer, it's got some blood, fish and bone in there, and I've mixed it in a little bit of some pelleted 6X, which is a chicken manure pellet, okay? So that's what the feed is there. Now, what I will say to you guys is all of these feeds that I'm talking about are all available from our online store, and again I'll put a link up here for that. So so each potato is going to get just up to this level here, okay, of feed. Now what we've done again, we've done a row, we're using Sapo mirror. All the potatoes are roughly the same size, they're all just a little bit bigger than an egg, okay. We've got a couple of older ones in here, and a couple of smaller ones, but it's not an issue. If anything, the ground has had the bigger potatoes, okay. Now I want to talk about, while I'm here, about the ground. This ground here had green manure growing in it all winter, okay. That's all been rotivated in, and it's been pre-dug, and now you can see it's all rotted down, okay. So this ground has quite a lot of nutrition in it. On top of that, it also had manure at the latter part of last year added to it as well. So this ground's got quite a lot of nutrition, which will balance out the fact that the buckets are going to have compost, okay. So that's about as close as I can get this experiment, because obviously some of you said, oh well, it's unfair because the bucket's got compost and the ground doesn't have anything. So this ground got really well prepared. The buckets are sunk only probably about a third of the way, some of them not even that, in the ground, and that's just literally to anchor them there and to help to allow any water just to drain out into the ground rather than it being evaporated. That's it, okay. So what we've done, this ground's all been totally dug, and as you can see here, we have put out a line and we are spacing our potatoes in the ground every 1 feet, so it's every 12 inches, okay. We're digging a nice deep hole, and as you can see, we're then going to put just this amount of feed into each hole. Now, by doing that, we know exactly every potato has had the same amount of feed, okay. We continued in that row, and 20 potatoes went in that row. We've done the same thing with the buckets. They take up a little bit less space, but we have 10 buckets laid out here, okay. They've been pre-buried and there's nothing in them yet, okay, and we're going to do that in a moment. And what we're going to do is put 2 potatoes each in a bucket. I'm going to show you how we do that section. You all know how to plant in the ground. We haven't furrowed these up because we have planted them a bit deeper, and there's pretty much no chance of frosts now. We're on the 5th of May, I believe. I've left it late this year to put them out because I wanted to do this experiment and I wanted to plant them into the ground and not have the risk of frost taking them. As you can see, it's a beautiful day, so we shouldn't have that issue. Now, if you're wondering what the results were last year, I'll put a link up here for that as well. That video really shocked quite a lot of people, and to get double the yield out of a row, was fantastic. So because of the comments last year, we are running this experiment again. Okay, so what we need to do is, in the bucket, and all I'm using here is a very cheap compost. It's a multi-purpose compost. As you can see, it's full of wood and stuff. This isn't a premium product, okay. It's a very cheap product. A lot of you will know what this bag is, okay. So I'm not mentioning any company names or anything like that. But what we're going to do here, guys, is probably put about just under half of a bucket of compost. Okay, now remember what I said, we're going to add this amount right up to the lip, look, okay, of feed per potato. So I'm going to use the first lot to mix in this bottom half and the second lot in the top half. That'll give us the 2 lots for the 2 seed potatoes that are going to go in this bucket, okay. And as you can see, there wasn't a lot. There we go. So I'm just going to take 2 potatoes, plenty of chits on them, and I'm going to place them into the bucket like that. I'm then going to put a little bit more compost over the top of them, and again you can see the feed up to the lip, okay, and we're just going to add that over the top. So there's not a lot of feed in this, guys, and now all we're going to do is fill the bucket right up to the top. None of this putting them in the bucket, waiting for them to grow through, topping them up, waiting for them to grow again, topping them up, waiting for... There's an issue with that, guys, as far as I can see, okay. Every time you're trying to put compost in there, you risk breaking the homes that come through. And the issue with that is the fact that if you break those homes, you really set that potato back. So I am a firm believer of filling the pot right to the very top. It makes it much easier for you as well, because once you fill this, you're done. That is it. Those potatoes will push right the way through that. It'll take them a lot longer to show, but when they come through, they're well anchored, and you know that that potato hasn't bothered open its leaves until it comes through the surface, so you know you're right. So I'm going to give it a little firm down, nothing too much, and there we are, that's it. Now, when I'm doing these potatoes, guys, I want to leave about ½ an inch on the top. By leaving ½ an inch on the top, that allows water to sit there to soak right through. Now, because you're planting in buckets, it is really important to keep these moist, okay? Like we will with all our potatoes anyway. I want to make sure that all these potatoes grow really well, and I would rather them all to turn out identical in respect of yield, because for me it's what I eat. I really, don't care less in what wins, as long as I get a fantastic crop, okay? So what I'm going to do now, while we're I might put you on just sort of time lapse. I'm just going to get the rest of these 10 buckets done, and then I'll come back to you. Excuse me sweating, guys. So that's it. That's the 10 buckets done for this sort of test again. Now, halfway through this, I had to go and get some more compost from down the allotment shop, and Keith came wandering past, and I had to move the camera. But it is what it is. I didn't want to be recording the whole time that I was down the shop to get the compost, but the 10 buckets are in. Now, between rows, this bucket is more or less about 18 inches, 19 inches in diameter. So what we've done between the rows on the rows in the ground is we've done them as sort of 2 foot between each row. So that'll give plenty of room for them to get around and what have you. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I'm looking forward to seeing what the results of this is again. Now, if it comes to the point where we get double the yield out of these buckets than we do over the ground, I think that's pretty much a given that the bucket way is better, or the container way is better. Mainly because we've already had 1 year of doing it and we had double the yield. If we get anything like that this year, then it sort of really answers the question. I've been as fair as I can. Like I said, this ground has had loads of organic matter put into it this year, so if anything, the ground potato should come out on top because of the amount of stuff that's gone in this ground. Every single potato has had the same amount of feed, okay, and they're all the variety Sapo Mira, so there is no contest. So it's the very first line, which are up by the broad beans up there, that we planted, and I showed you that earlier on. That'll be the line that goes against this very first line of buckets, and we will look at those results later on in the year. So I hope that you guys follow this experiment and see if the results match up to last year's. Anyway guys, I think that's about time for me. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and you'll be notified of when we put out new videos. Don't forget to hit the bell notification icon as well. And get yourself along to our website, have a look around there, and don't forget our Facebook groups and pages. There's all sorts of stuff happening over there as well. Without any further ado though, I'm going to let you get on with your day. And one thing before I do go, guys. On the 25th of May, there's new policies coming into play, or new laws I should say, as far as newsletters and things like that go. Any sort of contact. Companies before had to get your permission to contact you, but now they have to be able to be in compliance. They have to keep a copy of that double opt-in in the background, you know, so they have to give you a chance to double opt-in, and they then need to keep a copy of that double opt-in to be compliant now. And anybody found without that after the 25th of May can be fined. We'll be staying well away from that. With that in mind, we did send you guys out a reminder, and we will continue to do so once a week until the 25th of May to renew your subscription by going to our newsletter link, which is ukhereweggrow.com/newsletter, and I'll put a link in the description below for you guys. Get across to there. We have all sorts of stuff on that newsletter. We have growing guides, we have articles, there's recipes, all sorts of things on there, guys. Okay, and also we put from time to time competitions on there. Last year and the year before, we give away a couple of £2,000 greenhouses and all sorts of other stuff, so that'll be on there. And also we give discount codes for companies like Oakland Gardens and things like that. So make sure you come across and sign up before the 25th of May. If you're already signed and you haven't signed since the 26th of April of this year, then you need to re-sign up for that newsletter, because come the 25th of May you'll no longer hear from us. Okay, we are not taking any chances. And while I'm on the case, all of your details are totally secure. If you notice, on our webpage, it's HTTPS, which is a secure website, and none of your information gets sold or given to anybody else, and that includes companies that we work with like Oakland Gardens and things like that. Your details only are part of the UK Here We Grow network. It doesn't go any further than that, guys. All right, anyway, that's it from me. I hope you have a fantastic day. Get out in the garden in the sunshine and enjoy it while it's here, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.